So far, Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts getting a lot of praise from his head coach on the Eagles' first preseason game. Hurts going 6 of 6, passing for 80 yards and a touchdown. And the Eagles lost to the Jets. Nick Sirianni emphasizing just how well he thinks Jalen Hurts did in the pocket after last season. He was getting criticized a lot for fleeing too soon. Our Bryant McFadden and Jonathan Jones at Eagles training camp. Here's more from them.
Jonathan Jones, CBS Sports, here alongside two-time Super Bowl champion Bryant McFadden, and we are here at Philadelphia Eagles training camp. It was the last day of practice in front of all the fans as folks start to sort of wrap up training camp as they get into sort of the dog days of the preseason. They're going to have a joint practice out here in a couple of days with Cleveland. So because of that, it was a little bit of a lighter practice out here today. They weren't in full pads. They went longer than they thought they would, a little bit more than an hour and a half. But listen, we got to start with the guy in the red jersey. We got to start where we start everywhere. It's the quarterback. And it's Jalen Hurts, who is now in year 2 with this team as the starting quarterback, obviously in his third year in the NFL. And I spoke with Jalen Hurts earlier today, B-Mac, and he was talking about how, hey, this is the first time that I've actually had the same head coach and offensive play caller in 2 consecutive years since high school. He said, like, since his dad, it's been that long. What do you think that's going to do for young Jalen Hurts this season in the 2022 Eagles?
Well, I think it would slow things down for him because he's more familiar with the new scheme. Granted, year 2 with him being the starting quarterback, also understanding and knowing what is expected of him in critical moments of a ball game. Ideally, situational football, red zone area, where he needs to go with the football, certain plays that he loves. When you look at offensively, when we look at the structure, and that's something that they worked on today. Red zone efficiency. We saw a lot of one-on-ones with the wide receivers and the defensive backs in the red zone. We saw 7-on-7 in the red zone, and of course 11-on-11 are participating in the red zone throughout today. So that's something that they emphasized on. And today, from my eye, he looked pretty good when it came to those moments when you talk about being in the red area and trying to execute.
Yeah, when you look at that Jets game where he went 6 of 6 and almost 80 yards and a touchdown, and he escaped the pocket, and he's doing what he does. And yeah, he took that hit on the sideline, but he went to the sideline. He protected himself. The sideline's supposed to be his friend, and obviously it was a terrible hit there against the Jets. But I believe a lot in what Jalen Hurts is doing. You look at his weapons, right? Yeah. They just traded for A.J. Brown and paid him. They drafted Devontae Smith. They just traded away J.J. Arcega-Whiteside at tight end because they are just so deep at so many positions, right? I mean, with Quez Watkins and Zach Pascal. Jalen Reagor's probably the 5th wide receiver on this team, right?
Right now, and that tells you how deep this team is at the wide receiver spots when a former first-rounder is probably 4th or 5th. And granted, he's been having a pretty good camp as well, Jalen Reagor, from what I've been hearing from folks here who's been watching practices. But that's the most important thing in regards to seeing your young quarterback flourish and develop, adding pieces around him. Look at some of the young up-and-coming superstars at the quarterback position. Josh Allen is a better Josh Allen with Stephon Diggs. Kyler Murray is a better Kyler Murray with DeAndre Hopkins. And I believe Jalen Hurts would be a better Jalen Hurts with A.J. Brown. And don't forget or sleep on Devontae Smith. He quietly had over 900 yards a year ago. 5 touchdowns. So if you look at what he was able to do last year, year 2, things slowing down for him with the addition of A.J. Brown and then Dallas Goedert. I think he's going to have a Pro Bowl-like year as well. So when you look at those top 3 pass catchers for this offense, yes, I'm right there with you. I think Jalen Hurts will take steps in the right direction, and he will lead this team to uncharted territories, to say the least, based on what we've seen in years past.
I'm looking at this team, and I'm looking at this offensive line, and it looks pretty deep. Right now, they're not having Kelsey out there because of the elbow. They have Cam Jurgens, who ultimately is going to become the new Jason Kelsey or the first Cam Jurgens, and they really like what they've seen out of him. Again, a lot of depth along that offensive line, something that Howie Roseman and his staff have been really harping on over the past couple of years. But running back, this is going to be an important position for this team because Jalen Hurts also has to get the ball out of his hands quickly. That's what this NFL is all about right now, right? 2.5 to 3 seconds. If you have the ball in your hands for 3 seconds, you better be escaping the pocket or else you are getting sacked. What are you seeing out of these running backs?
See, that's the concern that I have offensively for this team, the running back position. You talked about the depth on the offensive line, the wide receivers, pass catchers, especially when they're healthy. I think this offensive line can be a pretty stout unit, but it's the running backs. Miles Sanders didn't participate today because he's dealing with an injury. That has been the one consistent theme associated with Miles Sanders. I think he's one of the more talented guys at that position in the National Football League, JJ, but he's more hurt than healthy. Then you look at Kenneth Gainwell, a do-it-all type of back, but a little smaller, and the same can be said for Scott. So when you look at the depth or the lack thereof, that might be an area of concern for this team if they can't stay healthy. We all believe Miles Sanders would be the featured guy when he's healthy, but that's the big question mark. When?
Yeah, you got to be able to rely on him, and availability is the greatest ability, right? Yeah. Okay, let's flip it over to the defensive side, where I'm seeing that they have the pass rushers, right? They have Hassan Reddick that they got in free agency, really working as the Sam linebacker who's going to be rushing the passer like he has the past several years so well. But I'm looking at the interior of that defensive line, right?
No
okay,
question.
You got Fletcher Cox. Okay, you have Javon Hargrave. And then they just drafted Jordan Davis.
Yes,
they have Milton
yes.
in there as well. I mean, what can this team, what can Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator, do with so many pieces in that front seven?
Just allow them to do what they've been born to do, which is hunt quarterbacks. That's what these guys been born to do. When you talk about those names on that front, they're deep, they're big, they're massive, and they can go hunt the quarterback. And any outstanding dominating defenses that we've seen in years past in the National Football League, they have dominating players in the trenches.
Yeah.
And on paper, they have those guys. When you look at the resume, the Fletcher Coxes of the world, they've been able to do it. Hargrave and adding Davis, who's, my goodness, when we saw him in person today, how can a man be that big and
move that way?
Move like that?
Yep.
So they got guys that can go hunt the quarterback, and that will make the guys in the second level, their jobs easier. The same can be said for the guys in the back end and the secondary. Their job will be easier when you look at the guys in the front that you mentioned when they're doing what they've been called to do.
Yeah, so let's start moving back because you have the linebacking group, and it's going to be Kazir White, and it's going to be T.J. Edwards. We mentioned Hassan Reddick. They drafted Nakobe Dean. I don't know if he's a guy who's going to be out there for all three downs necessarily. But then you have in the defensive backfield, they want to get a little bit more competition probably at safety. They probably want a little bit more depth at linebacker. Those might be the two weakest spots. What are you seeing, especially on the defensive backfield, and especially because I know you just talked to your guy, big play Darius Slay?
I love the addition of James Bradbury. Number one, you got an experienced guy to add to the secondary. Number two, you took him away from a divisional foe.
Big time.
Big time. So that's two pluses for the Philadelphia Eagles right there. Add him with Darius Slay. I think he's going to have a heck of a year once again. You got Maddox, who's commanding the slot. My concern, I'm right there with you. When you look at the safety positions, having depth there, number one, is a big time plus. But having playmakers, guys that can tackle the catch real well, guys that can track the football, that could be something that we monitor throughout training camp, throughout preseason, to see exactly who will establish themselves as the most confident, most consistent guys in the back end, because safeties are like traffic cops. They got to control the traffic. They got to be able to dictate and tell people where to go and where not to go, and they got to be able to do it in a high rate, and hopefully these guys that they currently have can answer that call and solidify the rest of the defense.
It's always hard, B-Mac, to really prognosticate and look into the future when we come in for one training camp practice and say the Philadelphia Eagles or insert team X is going to do X, Y, or Z. But you look at the talent on this team. And then I spoke with Nick Sirianni earlier today, and you kind of hear from these coaches and the front office and just how positive everyone is. And, yeah, it's easy to be positive when you're 0-0.
Yeah.
But you're coming off last season where it was a stepping stone. It was a building block, right? Okay, you get to the playoffs. You got humbled by a much better Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, a much more experienced in the playoffs Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. Now where do you go from here? In your opinion, where can the Philadelphia Eagles go?
Up, up, up. You talked about that playoff appearance a year ago. Number one, I was surprised the Eagles were able to get into the playoffs.
Especially the way that their season began. No question about it.
Yeah, a horrible start. They had some laps throughout the season, but at the end of the day, they found a way to get into the playoffs, and they were unmatched, but they got into the tournament. Now, when you look at this team, when healthy, adding more personnel, a better team on paper than what they were a year ago. Clearly, on both sides of the football, more experience from the coaching staff. They're the most talented team in the division. When every team in the NFC East is healthy.
More than the Dallas Cowboys.
Hands down. Let's do a process of elimination, right? Quarterback play, you give that to the Dallas Cowboys, right?
Yes.
Running backs, you probably give that to the Cowboys.
Yeah. Wide receivers, it's absolutely
Eagles.
right here in Philadelphia.
When healthy, their offensive line. This is not the Cowboys' offensive line of years ago.
That's right, 5 years ago.
You may go the Eagles. Tight end, the Eagles.
Yep.
Defensive front, the Eagles. Linebackers, Parsons, Cowboys.
Yep.
Secondary play, in totality, I'll go the Eagles.
I would too.
So that is the one team that many people feel like they have the most talent in the division. It's the Cowboys. I think it's the Eagles, because if you look at this team a year ago, able to get into the playoffs, surprising everyone, made so many moves to improve their roster. I think this is the team to beat. They should be the team to beat, JJ, in the NFC East based on the personnel they've added, the experience, and we all are high on Jalen Hurts.
We all are high on Jalen Hurts, and that's the man on whom so much of this is going to fall. It's going to be on the quarterback, Jalen Hurts, to do with this talent around him what we hope he can do, like that talent has been assembled around him. So, for Brian McFadden, I'm Jonathan Jones. Philadelphia Eagles camp will send it back to you.
Taking a look at the Eagles' schedule, kicking off things week 1 at the Lions there. It is ranked as the 3rd easiest schedule in the NFL. By the way, the Eagles plus 155 behind the Cowboys. These odds have tightened up a little bit. The Cowboys plus 130 to repeat as division winners there in the NFC East.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.